So another cost, hi, welcome back. Sorry, short lang ba yun? Pero I just stop every time there's a natural break para pwede kayo magmuni-muni. Kunwari, pero actually alam ko, ganap lang kayo ng potato chips at siguro manunood na lang kayo ng inyong Korean drama. But anyway, you're back and I don't know how many days it's been, but I'm happy you're back. Hello. Anyway, the other cost of this consumption and production system is the environment. Okay? It's caused the potential destruction of the earth. Okay? For sure, global warming is caused by the massive increase of greenhouse gases. Hindi lang carbon dioxide pero lahat ng mga ng burning of fossil fuels and actually the methane we produce from raising cows that fart a lot, and also the deforestation, the destruction of the forest really releases a lot of carbon and kills off a sponge that can suck up a lot of carbon. So one of the few areas of global warming, one of the few areas of the global warming debate which is universally accepted except to Americans. Haha, America, wake up, people, really. Anyway, which is the one area of the global warming debate which is acceptable to all, is that there's clear proof that the levels of atmospheric carbon dioxide have been rising since the beginning of the Industrial Revolution. Ano ba nangyari sa Industrial Revolution? Di ba well, dati pa naman na-invento yung systems of dati pa naman na-invento yung systems of wealth accumulation at saka consumption, saka consumption as the signs of our being human. Pero at the same time, when Industrial Revolution came about, it really created or gave us the capacity for mass consumption and mass production. And with that mass production, mass consumption, we destroyed more of the world, the environment, and we released greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. So what's so bad about global warming? Ay nako guys, kung kailangan ko pa tong sabihin. Actually, kailangan ko pa talaga sabihin. Kasi kahit yung mga estudyante ko, hindi ito alam and they're science educated. Jesus Christ. Anyway, sorry. I did not mean to take the Lord's name in thing. We have to erase that. Okay, anyway, joke lang. Anyway, so what's wrong with global warming? Because of global warming, weather patterns will change. Like for the Philippines na lang, you remember Yolanda, the karoon ng mga wild storms with great storm surges that destroyed coastal cities. Well, basically Tacloban and a lot of other coastal cities. Well, that's going to be normal. Why? Because the warming of the atmosphere in the ocean will create wilder typhoons. But also because of the heating, we're going to lose a lot of our water sources. So, which is happening now, di ba kaya nagkaka-drought na these days? Ang dami kasing tao sa Maynila, kunwari, kaya wala na yung tubig, yung Angat at saka yung lamesa. Pero, it's not only because of consumption, it's really also because the rain isn't falling the way it used to. Okay. What will happen then, pag lumubog, and then tataas yung dagat, for some weird and kind of annoying reason. Guys, why do I say annoying? Do you realize that our contribution to global warming gases, to greenhouse gases, is about 0.3% of the whole world? Okay? Wala sa kalingkingan ng US, ng China, ng Japan. Okay? Ng Korea. Wala sa kalingkingan. But for some weird reason, because of the ocean currents, their prediction is, di ba kasi when it's global warming, ang nangyayari, global currents change. Okay? The other thing also is that, because of global warming, natutunaw yung polar ice caps, right? Alam nyo yun, di ba? Okay. O basta lahat ng yelo, yung mga bundok na yelo, yung mga continent na yelo, natutunaw yan kasi mainit nga eh. When those things melt, you know that naman, when ice melts, then tataas yung tubig kasi galing tubig naman yun. And for some weird reason, okay, so tataas yung dagat sa buong mundo. So a lot of coastal cities will go under, okay? Manila is a coastal city. So a lot of coastal cities will go under. Kaya kung bibili kayo ng lupa, bumili kayo ng lupa sa bundok. Okay. Anyway, joke lang yun, pero half joke lang yun. Anyway, pero pagka nagtunawan na yung mga polar ice caps at tumaas yung dagat, syempre tataas yung dagat sa buong mundo. So all coastal cities really are threatened. Kaya there were these weird storms where New York really went down. They went under. Okay. And we see naman that it's also happening in the Philippines, the kinds of flooding we're getting whenever there are storms. That's also because of the rising water. And Yolanda's also because of the rising water in the world. But for some weird reason, parang sa Pilipinas daw, pinakatataas yung tubig na yun. Kasi parang the world's currents are bringing it all, a lot of it here. I don't know. That's kind of annoying, isn't it? Considering that we're producing only 0.3% of the destruction and we didn't really choose it. It was imposed on us by the Americans and the Spaniards. Ha, kakapagod. Anyway, so those are just some of the things. Health risks. More people are dying of extreme cold and heat because it's extremely cold and extremely hot. And the extreme cold and heat will create new pests and new diseases. Okay, so those are the things to look forward to. Anyway, marami yan. Massive damage to food production. Yun, massive damage to food production kasi magbabago yung weather eh. Will the crops be resistant to these new kinds of storms? Will crops still grow with long periods of drought, which we will have because it's hot? Di ba yung ganon? Scary. But don't worry, there's hope. Anyway, but my point is, it's inevitable. Okay? But we can try not to make it worse, which only means you have to find a way of producing and consuming at the same level with clean energy. Yun yung iniisip ngayon ng mga puti. Oh, sorry, I was gonna be racist and say, yan yung iniisip ng mga puti. But I mean, yan yung iniisip ngayon ng mga Western people. Kasi they want to maintain the whole economic system of production and consumption, pero they don't want global warming to get worse. So they're thinking, oh, we can do it with clean energy. Or the other thing is to reduce consumption and production and still look for clean energy alternatives, right? I think that's always the better thing. We have to change the way we live, guys. We just have to change the way we live. Okay. So many of the authors from the West really do believe that we cannot dramatically cut down on consumption and that it's necessary to rethink the whole consumption economy. That it's no, okay. Let's just say this muna. Many authors from the West really do believe that we cannot dramatically cut down on consumption and it's necessary to rethink the way we fuel consumption so that it's still possible to consume at that level. Bakit? Kasi nakita niyo naman yung nangyari sa COVID, right? Kasi because of COVID and then we were all locked down, a lot of our wasteful consumption was cut down. Did you realize that? Ang daming wasteful consumption cut down. Like joyrides, we don't take joyrides. Well, rich people still do, but us, we don't. We don't fly anymore uselessly. We don't travel uselessly. We stay at home. We don't consume so much like unnecessary food. We just, parang for a while during lockdown, we're only just consuming what we needed. Diba? Ano nangyari? Wow, bumaba yung carbon ng konti. Pero feeling nila, it will resurge. But my point is, bumaba. Pero tignan nyo naman yung suffering that it caused. When the economy said, slow down, pucha, ang daming nagutom, ang daming nagsarang negosyo, ang daming nawalan ng trabaho. Diba? And that's why we're saying, that's why the West is so scared. You're saying, global warming, does that mean we have to cut production and consumption? And look what happens if you cut down production and consumption. Right? Unless somebody can find an alternative economic system that says, let's cut down consumption and production, but still people will not have to be hungry or without jobs or suffer. Diba? Now, that's really the question. None of the mainstream authors seem to be talking about the need to rethink consumption. And the Western way of conspicuous consumption coupled with wealth accumulation is still the standard. Tignan nyo, pag nakahanap sila ng solusyon sa COVID na yan, balik sa dati. And they'll encourage it. They're like, oh, okay, let's start consuming more again, people. Let's go back to the movies. Let's do the gyms again and do all these things and buy new clothes and all of that. Because we need to get the economies restarted. Right? Pero yun na nga, if we get the economies restarted the old way, ano mangyayari? Di magiging ganun ulit yung consumption and production, tapos magiging mo pangwasak na naman. Diba? Ang gagawin natin, parang we're trapped because the West imposed this system of consumption and production on us who didn't want to be part of it in the first place, but then we became part of it at the end of a gun. But now we're so convinced it's a great thing that we're part of it without necessarily being at the end of a gun. Still, the fact is, we have to rethink this system because it sort of trapped us into a whole system that's destroying us and destroying our world and keeping us in a system where we have to just keep consuming like mad people without even realizing or knowing why it's so necessary. We just have to do it. Otherwise, the whole system will collapse and then we'll be poor and then we'll be sad. Diba? Actually, just to give you some hope naman, there are economists who are doing the kinds of studies that are like prosperity without growth, yung mga ganon. How do you build prosperity and development without necessarily growing and without it being based on consumption and mass consumption? There are authors thinking about that. And that's worth studying. Consumption without growth is one. Degrowth is another keyword for that kind of thing, for that kind of economy. Pero personally, aaralin ko pa nga eh. Kasi alam kong kailangan. Kaya kailangan ko ngayong aralin. Filo naman ako eh. Pero anyway, there. Now, we are seeing the unsustainability of consumption-driven economies. Okay, consumption-driven economies are growth obsessed. And the science of a healthy and growing economy is if people are making things that can be sold and consuming things that they can spend for. So the government and their services are really dependent on this economic activity. Otherwise, no taxes to help the poor. However, the unbridled continuous growth can lead to the end of the world that sustains life. I don't have to elaborate that seriously, diba? Because growth means transforming the earth and all other beings to nothingness. Look at, yun na nga, like Brazil, diba ngayon nagkakaproblema sa Brazil because the president wants to open that world to, that the rainforest to commercial use. See? Because they need the growth, they need the development, at least they need it now. Okay. And that's the only way they know. Kasi nga, it's Western imposed, it's worldwide, it's the market. Ganyan. So Corona gave us a chance, almost gave us a chance to see what it's like to focus only on the essentials. And for some, it was really an eye-opener. Uy, okay itong buhay na to. For some, it's like, oh my God, I've lost everything. Diba? But then it showed us talaga that a lot of the things we did during normal times weren't really that necessary. And in fact, they were very costly to the environment and costly to the world. We could build on essential. We could build and focus more on essentials like community and genuine human well-being and the realization of our creativity in the world. Kasi come on, guys, how many of us really realize our creativity in this consumption-driven world? Right? But what happened? So there was a great collapse where the economy suffered a domino effect where everything was affected. And the rationalization of consumption led to the greater and the rationalization of consumption. I say rationalization kasi parang naging yung mga hindi kailangan talaga, yung mga irrational, yung mga hindi necessary, not talaga. But that led to the poverty, the greater poverty of the poor. And this year, we witnessed the collapse of the web that supported livelihood and well-being as we knew it. Okay. All right, we'll rest here. Let's take a break.